On this computer. All right, and good afternoon, everyone. It's officially February the 13th, and we are together again to talk a little bit about evaluation feedback in group and team coaching. This is one of our twice a month calls, and they do sort of change every month in terms of whether it's the first or second week. I would say this month we are going to meet again in 2 weeks for a demo call. And that demo call in a couple of weeks is going to be looking at the new Conversation Sparker Charms. So these are a new product, although not new to my work, but just new in terms of offering it out. And if you are following along on TikTok, you would have seen me pulling every week the Conversation Sparker Charms of the week. If you are not on TikTok, because not everyone is, once in a while I try to put these up in our YouTube channel. So YouTube is Effective Group Coach as the handle. I want to say thank you for joining us. I hope that you're going to enjoy this. I want to get you thinking about evaluation and feedback, which is actually a big part of what we do. It's part of co-designing our agreements. And so I don't want to, lose that really important piece. I don't have a slide on that, but I think it's critical to say part of coaching is always this ongoing feedback round because we co-design our relationship with our clients. So as we get started today, just want to remind you of our last call where we left off because we're trying to bridge these as well. And 2 weeks ago, I hosted the call on creating an effective proposal for group and team coaches. Interestingly enough, this is one of the most popular topics that we've had covered in several years. There's been over 250 people who have viewed that in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's hit a nerve. If you have not yet downloaded the sort of 6 main areas I talked about, take a moment right now to scan that QR code because it will take you automatically to the 6-box proposal download. There's no need to include your name. I just want to give it to you. So grab your phone right now as I continue to talk and scan that QR code. And if you're watching the recording, by all means, please pause it. And why I wanted to draw us back to proposals is because another big important piece of this whole piece in why do we ask for feedback is because a lot of organizations, if you're doing organizational group or team coaching work, really wants to understand what is the impact of this work. So today we're going to look at evaluation and feedback. We're going to talk a little bit about what we've done to evaluation feedback that we receive and how we put that into play. I also want to talk about it on an organizational level in terms of how do we set up our programming for potential measurement studies. So we're going to go into the 5 levels of evaluation framework that was made very famous by Kirkpatrick. And I want to take you through those 5 levels of evaluation. Should you ever want to strive for an ICF PRISM award or other awards in learning and development, this is a really key piece. And, my work along with partners has won several industry awards now, primarily because of evaluation. So 2016, my work with the Scarborough Hospital was awarded a PRISM Award, and that was for excellence in coaching. And I did work with 160 leaders at the Scarborough Hospital, both clinical and non-clinical. And one of the things that was really important in our partnership from the beginning of this work was asking my sponsors and partners at the organization, how do you want to measure this initiative? What is important for you? What are the indicators that you can be tracking that's going to help you measure this investment? And in fact, it wasn't just nice for them to understand what the investment was, but that lay the foundation for other programming. It lay the foundation for 2 awards. So in addition to the 2016 PRISM Award out of ICF Toronto for excellence in coaching, we also won a 2017 national award given by the I4PL, the Institute for Performance and Learning. And the program was given an award of excellence for curriculum design. That's a pretty prestigious award. In fact, both of them are. And I have to say, it was a really best practice case, not only in the evaluation and impact, but also from the proposal stage. So I just want you to be thinking about how you measure evaluation from the start. And that's really with your partners, looking at what are we designing for, how do we do this, and what's important. So it is about sitting down together, whether there's 2 of you, whether there's 5 of you, from the onset to ask really what's important. And as a coach, that's what we're doing. We're asking the question. So let's bring your voice into the room. We've got a good selection, and I want to bring some graphics to the table. So my question today is, what's important about evaluation for you? And I'm going to invite you to look at these images, look at these icons, and to actually engage with us using Annotate. So Annotate, if you haven't been to one of our calls, you're going to find that at the top of your screen where it says you're viewing Jennifer Britton's screen. Go to the right. As you click to the right, you're going to see view options and then annotate. And depending on your Zoom download, you're either going to see your annotate window now show up on the left-hand sidebar, or perhaps in the older version at the top of your screen. Grab your pen, and I want you to circle the icon, the sketch that represents what's important about evaluation for you. So I'm going to take about 30 seconds to just sit here in silence. We'll see as you start scanning this what's important. If you need to erase any lines that were not intentional, you can do that by using the erase function. It's always fun when we get to use Annotate. And just notice from a learning perspective, it does help us bring different voices in the room in different ways. Now, I often get asked, would you start a group coaching conversation with Annotate? And that depends. One of the themes that we've been talking about a lot this last sort of 5 weeks of the year has been about the disruptive sort of mindset that a lot of people are coming to group or team coaching calls with. And so I think an exercise or just a quick icebreaker like this can get people focused and bring them to the here and now. So we've got everything from the happy faces to the, again, the Venn diagram, our sweet spot, as we call it in Group Coaching Essentials and Effective Group Coaching. We've got measurement, we've got light bulbs, we've got the phone, and the speech bubble. So I'd love to bring in a couple of voices just to have you share what this represents for you. I'll get you today to put up your digital hand just so I can see it, because we've got quite a few people here with us live who'd be willing to share what icon you chose and what's important about it for you. Give you a moment to find that raised hand function. Who wants to bring their voice into the room to spark us off? All right, Stephanie Burke breaks the ice. Steph, thank you for putting your hand up. So which one did you choose and what does it represent for you?
So I chose the Venn diagram with the sweet spot, and I don't remember what each circle represented from the team and group coaching. I did take that course, but to me, it represents the, the synergy between what I'm bringing, what the client is looking for, perhaps, and then what the group is looking for. And getting feedback and evaluation helps you to target the work you're doing so that you can hit that sweet spot.
Absolutely.
That's what it means to me. Yeah.
And you're right on the mark. So I was doing some work on an upcoming presentation. I pulled out my copy of Effective Group Coaching, as you can see, well worn. And in this book, way back in 2009, I introduced the sweet spot, which is really at the core of not only that program, but it helped actually outline our 10 courses in the area of group and team coaching. So the 3 areas of my sweet spot are very much number 1, what are you great at as a coach? We've got to lead from our strengths. And some of you have joined us for course number 4 in the pathway, activate your group and team coaching superpowers. It's really key in an evolving world, and an evolving world as coaches, that we start to double down and expand our range, right? We don't want to always just be leading from one superpower. We, in fact, want to develop all 5 superpowers. So if you haven't heard me talk about the group and team coaching superpowers over the last couple of years, I'd like to invite you to visit those recordings here on YouTube. Check out the superpower playlist, or better yet, join us for the 14 CCE approved Activate Your Group and Team Coaching Superpowers. And I'll be launching that course again in about 3-4 weeks, just, second, third week of March, and we'll be running until the end of April. For those that have been coaching for a couple of years now, and maybe you've taken the trifecta, the essentials and practicum, next learning edge is really you and your range, and how do you expand that? So that is circle number 1. Circle number 2 is our client. What are your client's needs and preferences? And that speaks to often the hybrid work styles. Is this a group that wants action? Is this a group that wants reflective pause? Chances are they want everything. So again, we want to really discern and listen to what clients want. Asking the question and listening is key. It also can be useful to help people discern what they are good at. So that's where any assessment comes in handy, especially if you're working with a team. And that helps us really look at styles, whether you're using a disc or whether you're using our own hybrid work styles. The third circle, because I'm sure Steph is going, and what was the third one again? So we talked about our strengths, our clients' needs and preferences. The third one is, what are you passionate about? As a coach, what are the topics you're passionate about? Maybe it is work-life issues. Maybe it's leadership. Maybe it's about being a better parent. But, part of evaluation, and I think we're more attuned to listen if we also find that sweet spot, which matches our passions as well as our strengths and what clients want. So thanks, Steph. You've taken us to a broader area there. Appreciate it. I'm going to go to Rita and then Mary Garrett. So Rita, what one did you pick?
Hi.
Hi, good
So
to see you.
the turn the frown upside down one that started with the sad face and went to happy face, and I really sort of think of evaluation as like not only a marketing tool, but it's a service tool. So it's nice to have a gauge understanding of, are we meeting our clients' needs? So rather than thinking of it as like, I definitely do also appreciate that you can measure these things and track these things from a marketing perspective as well. But, just to even understand if we're reaching them. So even just at that level 1, like smile sheet, if you will, are we reaching them? Because quite frankly, if the answer is no, going any further is kind of pointless. Like you're not going to get any more information other than what you can automatically see. So I always like to start there, and then if you are providing people with something that's exceptional and that is exceeding their expectations, okay, well, that's working really well. How can we dig further into that? And if we really aren't, then what's missing?
And again, back to our core competency of, we're there to partner. So what is needed? What are we hearing? What are we noticing? I think really we continue to be in times of great change. A lot of the conversations I've been having with coach practitioners this year have signaled that they're noticing that what worked last year or 3 years ago is no longer working in their work. And so, what are you hearing from clients in terms of what they want? We're seeing from our perspective, coaches are hungry for connection and community. I think that really reflects what we're seeing on the part of our clients. So thank you. I know many of you have a very busy day, but we're seeing consistency and consistent need in this Tuesday call. And if people aren't making it live, they're actually coming in asynchronously. So how are you also being aware of what is the balance of on real time versus async or asynchronous learning? All right, Rita, thanks for you. I'm going to go over to Mary Garrett. Good to see you, Mary. Which one did you choose?
So I'm the blue circle. So I looked at like the graph and the light bulb, and then just like Rita, the upside down to the smiley face. And I think like I was just creating an evaluation for a series that I'm doing with a county. And what I want to know is, one, like, is it relevant for all the 35 people that are going to be there? Is it relevant to their work? You know, do they feel like they can apply it, right? How applicable is it? And what feedback do they have for me? I mean, there's a lot of things I have in there, but also like I want to be able to improve and grow through the whole thing, right? To meet their needs and to meet the needs of the client that's hiring me to do it. And I just think like, so it will give me light bulbs, right? It'll hopefully give us light bulbs. What are we learning? What do we need to do differently? Because it's about systems integration, right? A lot of that has really suffered under COVID. And then like what does it measure, and where are they on the Likert scale, like all those things. So I'm hoping that will be really helpful. And then another client, like I'm doing like 30-minute coaching in between all the sessions for 7 months. And so that will give me an instant feedback, right? And as you've taught us, you know, so what now what, right? So be able to do that, but also look at the end. We'll do an evaluation at the end and see like where have they grown. So that's my goal for that one. Like how have they grown?
Love it. And thank you, Eric, for sharing like that real-time case study, because you just outlined, if people listen back to this, like you've really just outlined sort of those core components on bigger programs, right? It's that ongoing evaluation. It's the Likert scale. It's measuring all of those elements in terms of what is the sort of relevance, and is this relevant in our work, etc. So what is important about evaluation for you? That is something that we really want to foster. So I'm going to move us along only because these call times are limited. Let me see if I can erase everyone's drawing, and it's not letting me do that. So I'm going to stop our share and then come on back into our share. 1 second, I have someone at a door. I can't get to it, so I'm going to just have to unplug my phone. It's not a very good day with too many balls in the air today. So let me just power off. All right. Evaluation, so many different elements, right? We've got to look at quality. We've got to look at improvement. We've got to look at performance and results. We've got to look at analysis. Like, are we taking time to even analyze the information? And all of this takes time. So as you're preparing for programming, be sure to look at what is that extra time going to be to have all of these systems in place. Again, as we develop programs and proposals, these are additional time windows that get added in to what we are doing. So these are all elements of evaluation. This is just a very generic slide, but I felt that it really mentioned and captured the essence of so many different areas. So I just want to speak briefly to a few of them. Number one, like, what's the criteria for evaluation? What are we even evaluating? And this is where I want to really go in. I've talked a little bit about co-creating a coaching agreement. That's going to help us frame, what is this coaching work about? What are our measures of success? We want to be measuring to the client's measures of success. And one thing that I really heard from Mary Garrett a few minutes ago is like these multiple touch points, right? We want to be having multiple touch points as we go. And so there are 5 levels of evaluation that I want to share, starting with level 1. And Rita said it as the smile sheet. This is often known literally as the smile sheet, where you hand out a piece of paper or you get people to go online and say, what was your immediate reaction to this? Did they like it? Did they not like it? Was it a 1 thumb up? Was it a 5 thumbs up? What is your level of reaction? So as we're setting those arenas to look at what the criteria are, we need to also figure out at what level are we evaluating. And this takes us really into Kirkpatrick. So K-I-R-K, Patrick, all one word, Donna Kirkpatrick's body of work, which was all about learning evaluation. This is not specific to coaching. This is learning evaluation. So in a moment, I'm going to take us through the 5 levels. Rita, over to you. You've raised your hand. So do you want to add something to smile sheets?
I actually forgot to put down my hand. It was up from before.
Okay.
I
It
apologize.
automatically flew up. Do you have anything on though smile sheets in a digital space? Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, there are some technologies that allow you to do more things. What I particularly like to do is if you have the ability to customize your form, whether using a Google form or something like that, is to add a two elements to it. What was my thought process around, let's say, knowledge of something or understanding of something or um, perhaps resistance to something before we interacted and after we interacted, and to see the degree of change, because then you can actually see the influence of the session with the person, right? So if you can say, what was your confidence around your goal that you're currently setting, before you walked into the room versus after you walked into the room. And if you see that you went from a 2 to a 5, okay, well, then there was some influence here. Was it a 4 to a 5? Okay, so there was something. If it was a 5 to a 5 or a 3 to a 3, then like, okay, so maybe we didn't reach them today. So that's the one piece with smile sheets, is I feel like you can do a little bit more than just like, hey, how'd you like it?
Yeah. And that's why this is level one, right? Like a lot of people think that the smile sheet is where evaluation ends. And as Kirkpatrick has always asserted, no, this is the baseline, right? You just want to know, did you like it? Level two, we then start getting into what Rita said, which is learning. What did you learn is actually level two. And level three in a moment is behavior. How did things change? What changed from pre to post? So I just want you to think about level two learning. And this is where, if you've been with us, I always invite people to share what's the one thing you learned out of today, or what's the one takeaway from today. That is really a level two learning question. It is not, did you like this? It's what did you learn? And now what are you going to put into practice? We can often measure this as well, pre and post program. So a good tool for level 2-3 learning and behavior is also the wheel of life, or the wheel of business, the wheel of teams, right? You can make your own wheel. And I didn't bring an example of a wheel, but I think most of us could draw to mind that wheel of life, which is really one of the coaching tools that is a very rudimentary yet baseline that will help us benchmark, regardless of whether we're trying to go for level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't get caught up in that. But like, we want to, as we initiate work, help people get that benchmark. Where are you now and where are you going to go? And what's going to help you move from A to B? That is at the heart of any coaching model or methodology. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And what's going to move you from A to B? That's, if we go back right to, the GROW model, John Whitmore, that was at the heart of that framework. So anything that we have at our disposal to help people notice where they start and then revisit it, maybe midpoint, maybe end of point, is going to create a benchmark and some data. Level 3 is not the learning. What did you learn? But it is the behavior. And this is why I said the wheel of life, the wheel of business, the wheel of jobs, careers, whatever you want to do it as, really is a level 2-3. Because in our wheel of business, let's call it, I'm asking people to do an assessment on a 1 to 10 where you are with your level of skills in financial management. Maybe a person starts a program at a level 3 and ends the program at a level 3. Now, I say that because also we had Mary Garrett's comment, is this relevant? Like when I'm coaching business owners, is our focus financial management, or is our focus branding? Is our focus communication? We've got to get really clear on what we want to measure, because sometimes there are red herrings in measurement, right? And a increase, a stability, or a decrease in numbers, usually there's something to dig into. There's something behind the data set. So we won't have time for that on this call to explore it in depth, but I just want to leave you with that sort of like that mindset of data is data, and we want to get to the story behind the data. So very quickly, level 3 is behavior. What changes in people's behavior between the start and the end? And this may be something that is self-reported. It could also be reported in an organizational context by a supervisor. And that's where we get into the on-ramp of level 4 with his results. what business results were obtained due to the changes in participants' behavior on the job. That's the definition I gave it, page 221 of this book here of effective group coaching, where I touch on it. And results is also really where we want to aim for. What is the change in this work? How do things differ as we go? So that is our level 4. Now, sometimes we are asked for level 5, and I don't have a slide for level 5. Level 5, of course, is your return on investment, your ROI, return on investment. ROI in its purest form is really often beyond the coach's reach, right? This is where, in my conversations with clients, I will ask them, what data do you have available to measure the return on investment? Or sometimes they term it slightly differently, which is a return on expectations, an ROE. So today's conversation is just a baseline conversation, but we do want to ask, what is important? At what level is it important for you to be measuring? And how can I be partnering with your experts in the organization to look at what we can do within the frame of confidentiality, right? We also have to look at the frame of confidentiality and what we are doing with that. So it's a little bit more complex than just having a quick evaluation sheet. However, that is the starting point. And I don't want the complexity of this to dissuade you, to deter you from just asking the questions. What impact did this have? Just like Mary Garrett also said, what did we do? So what was important about that? And now what are you able to do as a result of our work together? That what, so what, now what framework is also another rudimentary framing for evaluation. So you do want to take a look at your work and see what is important with being able to determine what sort of information is needed, etc. So want you to also do one final thing. It's just about 1/2 so we're almost done. But the one more thing is to really think about what kind of data are you gathering. And I have lots of books on evaluation because I get a lot of questions about evaluation. I went to an old resource that I picked up 20 years ago from ASTD, which is now the ATD, the Association for Talent Development. And it had this really interesting chart on what are you measuring? Of course, I flipped out of it, but it was asking, are you going to measure hard data or soft data? And again, if you can imagine, hard data, of course, are things like, what do you think? Financial data, right? Is there a revenue increase? Is there a number of widgets that are now being completed? So on page 178 of this old ASTD Trainers Toolkit, they say hard data are things like units produced, scrap, equipment downtime, training time, costs like overhead. Soft data are things like work habits, employee absenteeism, tardiness. We put engagement and engagement numbers in that as well. Employee turnover, etc. Also, new skills would be in the soft data component. What I hope this call is going to spark for you today is an interest in learning more about this, or at least having the conversation with your prospective clients on what's important around measurement and feedback. Whether you are doing corporate or not corporate, we want to be starting to learn more in our work as we grow as coaches. And by no means is a 30-minute call a replacement for years of learning. Evaluation is a related field, and you may want to partner with an evaluation specialist or tap into evaluation specialization in an organization. As someone who's been in the field of learning for more than 3 decades, it's always important that we go back to our evaluation forms. And so many of you have gone through our programs, and we wanted to just bring forward what we did in one of our programs last year. So we received over 40 evaluations forms for Group Coaching Essentials alone, right? That's one of our 10 courses. And what it did in looking at that evaluation, we noticed a couple of different trends. Like one comment or a series of trend comments was like, I wish we had more time, or it felt rushed in the call time that we had. So that has led us in 2024 to extend the Group Coaching Essentials modules or lessons to 90 minutes, adding new 15 minutes on per class. And I'm going to bring Ivana in here. Ivana, what are you noticing now that there's 15 more minutes in the program each week?
Yeah, thank you, Jen. So, and hello, everyone. What we're noticing is, even in this current cohort, that there's actually more time and space to allow depth in conversation in some of the topics, and starting to bring more voices and wisdom into the collective conversation in doing so. And for certain modules are very content heavy based on design. So it just allows more breathing, we'll say, and absorbing of the content.
We also heard a different tangent, like we want to see more group coaching in action. In fact, I heard from someone in the one-on-one, they were like, I'm so thankful there were a couple of recordings that I could see you in action. Even those were old, Jen, it was good to see group coaching in action. What does it look like? What does it sound like? And so that's leading us this year to continue to include and ensure that one of our 2 community calls every month is a demo call. So you can go back and see group coaching demonstrated even in our community calls. 2 weeks from now, we're going to do the demo of the Conversation Sparker Charms. So join us and you'll see one of perhaps 10 ways that you might be able to use the charms or the tokens in your own type of work. We also have in different programs, 30-minute integration debrief session at the end of a program. That's not part of every program, but some groups are having a follow-up. And I think that's for practicum, right, Ivana? You're doing
That's
the
correct.
30-minute integration. Do you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So ultimately, because we really value the practice of integrating from Team Coaching Essentials and Group Coaching Essentials, our core program really didn't allow for integration of modules or even, in terms of modules or even more depth conversation of the learning within the practicum. So what we've actually done is we're integrating that both in a debrief session, but also allowing more integration of the course material in the WhatsApp or in the keeping the conversation going. So we really heard that feedback loud and clear.
Updates, modules get updated regularly, like practicum once a year. I find every time I run like the newer courses like Activate, it gets updated every round. Same thing with our hybrid work styles. I just wrapped up NELA, which is our neuroscience learning and experiential approaches. Our latest round, every week I was updating because things change and we want to really make sure that we're bringing to you sort of the latest practice in a world that is ever changing as well. 2 more pieces that I think are important learning. We wanted to sort of model and share what just the variety of feedback you might get, even in one program or a series of programs. How are materials accessed? This is always a great question to ask. How and where do you go to get your materials? And so we've continued to use Dropbox, right? That is our sort of ecosystem of forever. And really with many courses, it's just simply a Dropbox folder that people will go to. Certainly the recordings are there, extra handouts are there, and it's just an easier, more streamlined way. And then finally, the ongoing work in progress of website, right? If you're running public programs, you're going to want to look at what makes sense, especially if you're serving a global audience. And one reason why our registrations are more complex than others is because we offer programming to coaches around the world. There are VAT or GST, HST requirements, which means that some people can't register online because it depends on exactly where you are in the world. Also, things like, do you do auto responses? Do you not do auto responses? And all of this too has to be in the backdrop too of code of ethics, right? And your own local business practices. What is feasible? What is not feasible? there are certain things in Canada that we can't automate in the same way you could do in the US. And that's just because of local level registration, privacy laws, taxation laws, etc. So again, we can bring in and get great feedback. Some things you can action quickly, other things you can maybe action on a medium term. Other things yet would be a really great to have, but you may be constrained by the business context in which you operate. So I hope that today has been valuable. Ivana, it looks like you want to add one more thing. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. What I wanted to share too is, there's a lot that we've been able to integrate and evolve. And part of the feedback process is also hearing and validating the things that are working and really double downing on those. Like we get great, and it is one of our differentiators with the laser calls, allowing someone to come in and have a more personalized conversation about their own journey. So these are the things, it's best practices. We talk about it. And I want to share that because it is actually something that our participants and likely your participants and your coachees would get value from. So really that is something that I want to share. Like part of the feedback and evaluations is that continuous improvement in real time, quarterly time, annual. And it's also really getting that validation of what's working and how can we double down on that or tweak, modify, change.
Well said. And tweak, modify, change with time, right? Group Coaching Essentials turned 18 years this January. We've been asking for feedback every month for the last 18 years, and we get feedback that is consistent. We also are able to continue to iterate and evolve. And I think that speaks volumes, right? This is not like a thing we ask once in a while. Every person has an opportunity. And if there's some, one additional learning, I think is, as soon as people leave the line, you're less apt to get the evaluation feedback. So that is always a challenge in a virtual space. In person, when I do in-person programming, I still provide 3 to 5 minutes for people to fill out the forms in the room. And I will not leave the room. I will not get on a train until I have those in my sweaty hands. You'll also want to think about, do you ask for people's names? Do you not ask for people's names? If a client wants a summary report, who is that going to and at what level? And does the person completing the evaluation understand how evaluation data is used? So obviously we've sort of opened the lid to a variety of themes. We are going to wrap up. I've got to drop off in a minute, but I'd love to hear from you. What's your takeaway from today? And maybe your takeaway is something that you can actually put into practice. So please take a moment and head to chat. Roxanne has already left. She said, thanks for the insights and learning, everyone. I need to jump off. We had also someone else saying, wonderful, thought-provoking conversation today. Have to jump off. I'm going to have to jump off as well. So what is your take forward from today's call? Let us know in chat. And while we have those coming in, just a reminder, next call will be in 2 weeks. That'll be a demo call on the Conversation Sparker Charms. If you want to learn more about the Conversation Sparker Charms, you can head on over to conversationsparker.com, and they are already shipping. In fact, the packaging is just arriving, and as soon as it's coming in the door, I'm sending things out. So I'm shipping twice a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays, although this Saturday I will be on a train from Toronto to Montreal, so it will only be one shipment this week. For Ivana, her learning was Kirkpatrick, 5 levels of evaluation with a focus on the various layers. Yeah, and Kirkpatrick's work is very well known, so you can watch more videos on that. Martha says a connection between proposals and feedback evaluation. Yeah, very helpful on several levels. Really, this is a mechanism for us to keep asking questions, to be listening, to be noticing, to be curious. We are here to serve others. We're here to co-create with others. And so evaluation is not just about, is this good or bad? It's like, what is happening? What is evolving in the space that we are co-creating? Rita says a lovely reminder about agile continuous improvement. Thank you, Ivana, for making my thoughts more clear. There we go. Well, thank you all. Good to see. Many of you saw Kathy here as well. Good to see you, Kathy. And thanks for joining us today. So we will be back together again in a few weeks. Have a good one. Take care, everyone. Be well. Bye-bye.